Hello, fellow Hunters of the Blue, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to another live stream. We are doing the Royal Retinue review today, and that is the time I take in a month to, well, say thank you to my patrons and channel members for being so awesome and supporting me. And what I do is I review one of their submissions. We have 11 entries today, and if you want to take part in this, the only thing you have to do is join my Patreon. The link is there in the tiers Metatarms or above, and you will be able to submit one entry a month. We have March today, and we have 11 entries, which is quite a lot. People are usually quite shy, have way more patrons in that level or above, but only 11 submissions, which is going to take us quite a while to review. Apart from that, I have a video coming about TMM. It's finally ready. The idea was it should have been ready this Friday, but it has been a hell of a week and I haven't been able to finish it. So it's going to be finished hopefully Monday or Tuesday. And then I will do like a quick video for Friday, and then a normal service will be resumed. I'm still waiting for the rest of the model color range. I have some of them. These little guys. I have about 80 paints, but I actually asked them to. I actually told them I was going to review the whole range alongside with the game color, and they asked me to wait till I have the full range because they actually prefer that. And I said, well, okay, happy to oblige. I don't really care. It's going to be awesome to have the full range. It's going to be massive. And yeah, that is also coming. The review of the model color / game color range. I've been waiting till I had the model color to do the game color also, because they are basically the same range, and it just makes no sense to review one without the other. I also have a review for AK. I will try to not oversaturate the channel with paint reviews. So about I want to review the model color / game color and the AK. Maybe people want the scale artist because I think they're really good. And apart from that, I also have a masterclass in Barcelona in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about. It was almost to the brink of not happening, but in the end, a lot of people join in, and it's going to happen. So really excited about that. Also planning workshops like live masterclasses in Germany, Netherlands, and we're talking with some maybe Greece, Ireland, and another UK. So it's going to be super awesome. But today is the review. We have so many people have here. Have Mark, Paul, Ace McTom, Tommy, the Legend Mythman, Olaf Carlson, I like yours, and Stefan. Hello. Oh, Stefan says Canada. I wish I could do the US / Canada. It would be awesome. The main issue is a couple fold of things. One is the oversaturation of the market there. Everyone is doing master classes there, which is just too many, and the market is completely saturated at the moment. I was talking to a couple of people that organizes them, and one of the main themes about those conversations is, well, the market is oversaturated right now. so it's not going to be easy to fill the classes. Also, the US is massive, so even though Americans do like to drive quite a lot, it's still inconvenient if you have to do like 8 hours of car to just reach a class. You're probably not going to do it if you are not like super into it, which is a bit of a shame, but what are you going to do? It's just what it is. And it's also the going there is so expensive for us Europeans that you can't really do just one class. You have to do like 3 or 4 classes in 3 or 4 weeks, which is a pain in the ass. It's super tiring, and you have to find that like a full month free of any work and not do anything else, just do classes. And it's just, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe. Oh, thank you, WG. 50 buckaroos. Thank you for the great follows. Thanks for the great tutorials. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. It's really generous. I really appreciate that. I wasn't expecting that. I'm not going to complain. Thank you very much. Um, wow. So yeah, US is a big problem. So maybe if I ever go to an Adepticon or something like that, I might do a class, because why not? Or a couple of them, because why not? But apart from me going to one of those like massive events, I don't think it's. I don't think me just going there just to do classes is ever going to happen. Sadly, because I really want to visit the US. I really, really want. Again, I was there in Orlando, visiting Disney World and the Universal Studios. It was awesome, but I want to see other parts of the country, not just like theme park land, so to speak. Yeah, yeah. And apart from that, I've been very busy. I look what I just found. Look at that, an OG NES. Funny enough, and I just cleaned it up, and I'm going to do a couple of mods into it. It's going to be awesome. Funny enough, I just found that in my sister's house. She just had it in one of her drawers. She just opened a drawer and was a nest there. And I asked them if I could take it, and she said it was from one of her ex-boyfriends who just left it there, and now it's mine. So yeah, thank you, ex-boyfriend of my sister. I really appreciate that. It's going to be awesome. Miguel says in Spanish. She's saying that he doesn't know which days I'm doing streaming. I'm doing it once a month, and it's so erratic. It's very chaotic. The times I do streaming. So once a month. That's all I can say. Oh, I have that too. Yeah, it's awesome. This is one of the for all of the old school gamers out there, which will know this. This is a French one. You see that it has an SCART port in the back from factory, and I'm going to do an RGB mod on that, because RGB is way better than this, because that is supposed to be RGB, but it's not really. It's just the same composite, but converted into like fake RGB. It's not like the real deal. So I'm going to do an RGB mod on that, and I might mod the controllers to be wireless. I think that would be really cool. But that's that's not what the channel is about. Uh, yeah, you are lucky today. Yeah, exactly. You are lucky today. So why don't we jump straight onto the review? We will be here for quite a while. I have my water. You can get one of those fancy mugs in my shop. It's just black, one more thing. On a t-shirt too, if you want to sport my logo. But for now, let's just move on to the review, shall we? I think that would be awesome. Okay, so we are starting drinking paint water, of course. That's how you get good. You want to get good, you have to drink paint water. Normal water is for suckers. We are starting with Mark, because he was the first to submit, I think, or maybe not the first, but the first one I opened. So this was a long time, a very long due to make, and we have a lovely large scale model. Mark paints. Well, I don't know if he solely. I don't think he solely paints large scale models, but he's delving more and more into large scale, which is awesome. I love large scale models. And this is a lovely lady mounted on a lynx, a really big lynx. Yeah, that seems like it. So why don't we jump straight into that? The main thing I see is, just looking at this like this, is that it's very uniform in terms of highlights and shadows. It's not flat, but it looks flatter than it is, because the highlights and shadows are probably not distributed in the most ideal way. Everything is really well painted, but I think we can do some improvements. I also feel like it's lacking a little bit in the shadow department. So just look at this. Let's start with the creature itself, because I think it was the most um, notorious thing, I would say. Um, Let me just see. Yes, what I feel is, first of all, these hair strands are a little bit too big, a little bit too thick. You probably want to try and do a smaller lines if you're going to do this kind of hatching highlights and shadows. Then I also feel like we have kind of the same level of highlights, no matter if we are highlighting these sections or these sections way down the animal, or even here, which should be a little bit more in shadow. Who is that handsome guy on the screen? I don't know. Probably not me. Um, let's. So what I would try to do is probably increase the shading a little bit more. It feels like, you see, we have some hairs here, but it suddenly stops when we are approaching the shadow. So we only have these strands present in the highlight. It's a little bit disconcerting. Let me. Oh, no. Let me grab this mid-tone here, and let me change my brush. Oh, they have a brush? Yes. Oh, okay. So, yes. Okay, let me grab the brightest color. So my main thing here is, for example, you should push your highlights up to the very edges of the volumes. Also, I have some of the hairs going one direction. This was a good example. Let me pull all of that work back so you can see it. Let me create another layer so we don't modify that one. So we have hairs going in this direction, hairs going in this direction, hairs going in this direction. But some of them change direction in weird places. Like, for example, here. Others are very consistent, but still, I'm not sure how that would be. But you can't just stop your strands like this very abruptly. You do want to push this more into the midtones like this. And when you do volumetric highlights, you have to be volumetric about it. You can't stop like here, for example, like you did, or here, like you did. This volume goes all the way up to there, and you have to fill it in. Otherwise, it feels like the hair is a little bit empty. Apart from that, as I said, you probably want to do your strands a little bit smaller. But you see, the volumes goes up to there. Same here. This is a complicated area because we have this muscle here, but you probably would want some highlighting in this section there. And you probably want all of this area to be a little bit more uniform in highlight like this, not just having like this deep in value here, which makes no sense because the sun should be hitting on top of that very intensely. Same here, the strands, oops, the strands stop way too abruptly there. Like that. Also, you did this kind of spots. I don't think they work. I would just get rid of them because they don't read well. I just don't read these as spots. I don't know what they are. I don't think that is a good idea. And I think some places do need a bit more like a deeper shadow. For what I can see, your deeper shadow is like this color, which is way too desaturated. Let me grab this. I would gladly go way darker than this. To like same let's just say same value or same level, in the same level, because this was like about here. Let me just cancel that. So this is around here. I would probably do like this kind of color, so way more saturated. This has too much white, and I think your model would benefit a lot, especially let me get that and make it small, especially if you treat it as a general shadow, so to speak. Not like focus in one place or in one volume, but treat it as a general volume shadow. Look at how much better this looks with this like general shadow. It looks more volumetric. So I think you were thinking too much in the hair strands and the individual volumes of the animal, instead of thinking globally as the whole animal as a volume. If you just add this kind of shading here, you can do it with glazing like this, and you see how much more depth we are adding into this creature just with that. Look at the difference that makes. It just makes it look like way better overall. You can do the same onto the lighter pelt or lighter fur. Just continuing the same shading, and you know, here on the bottom of the animal, we don't really have to care about anything. We just want darkness, because that will increase, that will make the animal look more 3D. It's like that. Look at how much of a difference it makes. I think it's massive, personally. Same goes probably for this lovely lady here. I do think she needs a little bit more shading onto the darker parts, with a bit more of a saturated shadow color. So for example there. Yeah, something like that. Or you can even be a little bit more focused with your shading, and a little bit bolder with the shading, but just in the right bit, which is, I know that's the difficult part of large scale models, is knowing where to put all of your stuff. I'm not going to try and do like a dramatic lighting style, because I know that's not what you were going for, but just increasing the shadows that are naturally there, so it looks a little bit more defined. Let's look at the difference. Yeah, look at that. It just looks so much better. It just looks more intense. More contrast is always more better. That's what I say. And you can see the same thing, for example, here in the green bits. Your deepest shadow is this. which is not nearly dark enough. Like, not even close. I would go to something like this. Let me increase my brush size like that. Look at how much of a difference that makes. It just looks less flat, which is what you want. You are correct on your values on the highlights, but I don't think you are on your shadows. I think you need to be more aggressive and think more volumetrically. I think this thing here, which is like a magic bird or something, I think this thing should be casting an OSL. I think it would be awesome to see some OSL effects on her hand and onto this side of the face. They think it is a good opportunity. It's just so convenient that it does cast some light there. Also on here, there, on this side of the animal, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, you can see what I was talking about flatness here on this tree stump as well. First of all, I know this is just like it's not just basing, but it is important. I think the inner core of the wood should be lighter because that's how wood usually works. Bark is darker than the wood itself, so like that. Second of all, I think you should take, I think for normal um, for like basing black is a good use. You can just, just glaze some black in some areas. For example, here, which is, you know, the light is coming from above, so this should be darker. And you can also increase darkness, like there and there near the animal. So we are, generally speaking, adding a little bit more interest. Shadows generate interest. Highlights are awesome and we need them, but good deep shadows, I think, generate a lot more interest than intense bright highlights. Uh, you need both, but you can't forget one or the other. But yeah, a really nice job, Mark. I hope that was useful. You paint very well, and we do like private tutoring, so that's why I went to very specific things instead of just concentrating into painting techniques. You need to start thinking more about like a general piece and the general volumes, and that's your next step because you have technique nailed down. So that's what you should think about. Thank you very much for the submission. It was awesome. Really hard to nail down what I wanted to say because sometimes it's hard to articulate what you are thinking about. But I think it came out well. Thank you. Let's move on to the second one. This is Paul. And Paul has done a fantastic verse for Assassin. I will just want to say that I love the basing. Basing, I think it's really good. It's much better than what I usually do, which is not difficult, by the way. I'm shit at doing bases, and I think he did a fantastic job in general with this mini. Eversor has always been one of my favorite miniatures ever, so yeah, I'm a little bit biased here in this case because I do love the Eversor as a general concept. I think it's super cool. I still remember the one of the first Warhammer 40k models I ever bought was the Eversor that had like the severe head. It was holding like a severe head. That was such a cool model. I don't know what it is sadly. I think I lost it. And here we have a nicely painted model, very Paul in its style. What has been submitting for quite a while, so I already know his style very very well. I do say this as a compliment. It's very foundry like, foundry looking, and old school people like me, ample, would know very well what that means. Um, One thing I don't really like about um, the paint job is this highlight you did in the middle here. There, it looks like a mold line, and I don't like it. And it is painted on, so it was intentionally painted on. But it makes the leg look like it has a mold line on it. So I would just remove it. Let me just remove that, and immediately it looks better. Yeah, that immediately looks much better. It just because where it's placed, just it bang on in the middle of the leg, where the natural mold line would be. It makes it look like you missed a mold line, which I know you didn't. Another thing I would like to see change is you are thinking too much here. I see too many things going on, which is not bad, but it is too busy. I would love to see the skull, especially this flat area, a little bit more simplified. So what I mean by that is a little bit more like this, and not all of those lines. And then we can move on to a white like that. I think that looks better, if I dare to say so myself. It's not so distracting, and we can, because when I look at this like this, my eyes go onto this section here because I don't know what's going on, and when I do this, my eyes go onto the eyes, which is where they should be, because that's where you want to bring your attention. And actually, you did a fantastic job with the eye lenses. I think they are fantastic. So you should be doing that. We can increase that effect by over highlighting the right side of the face where as we look at it. So if we over highlight all of this side and bring it more onto the white, just like this. You can also do the teeth here, like this. Now we are suddenly, increasing that effect even more and playing with the light and making the head a little bit more interesting, I think. Let me erase that, or it's going to not going to be happy. There you go. More things, more things, more things. Hmm. So I want to talk about the black leather like spandex kind of suit for just a little bit. I think we are missing like one stage of highlight between the darkest dark and the brightest bright. So between this and this, I think we are missing a midpoint. And I think you should trying to ease off these transitions a little bit more in that area. And then I think you should actually, let me grab this a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller. I think you should try and do this highlight a little bit brighter. So like this. It's a slight change, but it makes the suit look more reflective. And then you can actually go on to pure black to amp up the contrast even further. just putting that there instead of that blue. Yeah, I think that will look pretty good. Let me just do the ultra bright highlights. You can probably do like the sternum kind of thing, and here like this. And then we can pull downwards like some of the midtones so we have a shinier effect in general. Something like that. Subtle, but it makes a big difference. And if you want to go like all the way in, you can even go up to pure white for your very final highlights. To make it extra shiny. I do have to paint one of these assassins at some point. I think I'm going to pick this Eversor. Use a tablet for Photoshop. Yes, I do. I use a Huion pen display. You can't really see it. Let me change for a little bit so I can show it to you. So I use one of these Huion pen displays, which is 16 inches 4K. It's fantastic actually, and it wasn't that expensive considering pen displays in general, especially for a 4K one. And it does make a big difference being 4K. It's really good value. I'm really happy that I decided to take the jump and do it because it's just so much easier to correct things. One more thing I want to touch on is this. Oh, what is my brush? Is this kind of like targeting system here? I think it's hard to pinpoint what's going on, but I think I would like something like this. So I would go for something of this sort. I would do this dark, like really dark here. I would do like a bright spot there, like this. And then I might do just with the bright blue, like something like Baharoth, something like that. Yeah, this is really, really, really small. I'm not sure what I want to do here. It's a complicated detail. Um, no, I don't think it works. I don't think it works that way. Okay, let me try something different. Sometimes you have to try different stuff. Oh, yeah, but I want it way smaller. Yeah, I think this is going to work now. Now I want to grab like a dark teal, like a very dark, something like Incubi Darkness. Move on to here. And then you can probably draw this targeting thingy with dark lines or some sort like this. Maybe? I don't know. I don't know. Something like that. Probably. Again, really challenging detail to paint, but it's because you're joking. It's tiny a spot to make look good. Yeah, it just yeah, these kind of like small details do really make a paint job. But yeah, that's basically it. So just when you have a smooth surface, try to paint it smooth. Try to do those smooth blends instead of trying to do like a lot of different like small uh, details of island of details to fill it in. Don't be afraid trying to do like nice soft gradients. But really really good job, Paul. I really love how you paint, and you already know that. And good, really good base. Let's move on to the third one. This is Giuseppe. Giuseppe sent this a Chaos Barbarian, or Dark Oath as they're called now. I think I'm not big into AOS. Not because I don't, because I think it's bad, or because I'm one of those all the all wall fanatics that just can't seem to move on. It's just that I don't play, so I don't follow those things. And it is a lovely piece, but um, it's having the same issue that as Marx had, especially on the skin, and we are going to touch on to that. So the skin looks good, but it looks flat, and the reason it looks flat is because we have probably enough highlights, but probably not enough shadows. So we're going to take a dark brown. We are on the what is, and we do want to oops to work on shading this. Oh, of course, it's super opaque. Especially volumetrically speaking, we want to create a little bit more volume on the lower areas. Just like that. And I forgot to activate my second layer, of course, because I am a fucking idiot. Mm-hmm. And then when we do our highlights, this is our brightest highlight color, we want to place them just next to the shadow colors and not in the middle of the volume. So sort of like this, which leads us to being able to go way brighter in our highlights if we place them correctly. Like that. You can see difference in this arm. Let me show that to you. That's that way you can increase and create way more contrast. Oh, he was looking feedback on the skin especially. So yeah, we are going to do that. So basically this is the main issue. You did a good job. The skin is well painted, but it's lacking contrast, especially on the shadows. Let me do a little bit more. Oops. Like that. And increase the shading here. And we can do something like that. And you can see how much more shadow and how much more highlights we are able to cram in into those little spaces if we place them correctly. So if you think about the sun being above, you want, let smaller. You want what the hell? You want everything coming in sort of this direction. So we have what's the first thing that is touching. Let me do another so I can delete it later. First of all, is here, so this will be our brightest highlight. Then we have a band of more less highlight, then less, then pure shadow. We have to think about this on each volume. So for example, here our main highlight is going to be here. Then we're going to move on to an area of a little bit less, and super deep shadows. And we have to think about this topographically of all of the volumes. For example, here, our main area of highlight is going to be this. And we can place another one here because it has a lot, like he's really ripped. So he can be there. And then we can think about, like this, and then like this. So you have to think in this sort of way to be able. For example, here we will have the same issue. Our main highlight will be here. Then we will place another one there. Then going deeper and deeper. But as you can see, you don't have the same level of depth here and here. And here should be our main highlight for this volume of this muscle. But it is not. It's here. And it shouldn't. Then we do this with this, etc., etc., and we work on every single volume. That's like the basic thing. Then you also have to think about things like, well, if light's coming from above and directly in front of him, this ridge here inside the muscle should be highlighted because light will be hitting it straight, etc., etc. There are a lot more things. Let me hide this layer so we can work better. But that's essentially it. You did a really good job. You just have to emphasize those highlights a little bit more. Let me grab deep shadow color. Oh, okay. Don't shout at me. Let me redo some of these highlights and some of these shadows. I'm going to darken this thing up a lot because we're going to do a highlight inside there in a minute. Then I'm just going to grab this, which is basically white. Then I'm going to paint like a massive highlight where I think it should be. So about there. Let me do this smaller. I want it there. And there. Also inside here. Probably there. There. And you can see the difference more or less. I hope you can. You see how much volume we are gaining, how much more realistic it looks suddenly. What did I do? I don't know. Okay. Flat, not flat. Flat, not flat. That's what you have to do. Just think in this sort of way. As you can see, in volumes that are just near each other, the maximum shadow of one and the maximum highlight of the other are touching. That's what it's going to create the zenithal effect and make the skin look more realistic. You can escape all this zenithal thinking in the rest of the model and it's going to look good, but skin and faces are something that our brain is programmed to look in a certain way and to understand very well. So if you don't paint the skin realistically, it's going to look very weird. While as if you paint cloth in an unrealistic way, it doesn't really matter, or armor or bone or those things don't really matter. But the skin and faces do matter quite a lot. It's very important. Gonna use the tips from here for some orcs down the line. Yes, that's you can use this for orcs. Just change the colors. A good tip for orcs is if shade the skin with a dark, deep red color, something like this. This thing. This is. Can you sorry? Can you focus on this? My there you go. This is evil red from Game Color. It doesn't look red, but it trust me, it's like a super deep, a dark magenta. It's very pure. It's beautiful color. Just some glazes of that, and it's going to look amazing. Okay, so that's essentially it. The rest looks really good. Very heavy metal. You can be a little bit cleaner, especially around some of the details. As you can see here, the strap goes up to here, but you have some skin tone over where the strap is, so you probably should, you know, clean that up a little bit more. But apart from that, and maybe some more work on the true metallics, I think we can do a lot more. Let me check that. So you should probably try to do something like this. Like that. You can do, whoops, what did I do? That. That. You can do like this. Like that. So more. We can take this black and apply it here, and there, there, and there, and maybe a little bit here on the tip. There you go. So you can work more on that, but I think the skin was what was calling out the most. Thank you for your submission. Let's move on to the fourth one. This is a Stefan. He's here in the chat. He is the one that constantly wants me to go to Canada, which I want to go. It's it just doesn't make sense monetarily. Sadly, I would love to visit Canada, but things are the way they are. And he has this beautifully yellow elder. Yellow elder are the best elder. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows the rules. And it's really well painted. I really love the blue and yellow is a fantastic combination. And the choice of this color shifting metallics for the inner mask is a fantastic choice. And what I see that this needs is, again, is a little bit too flat, and I think we can increase the shading quite a bit. Let me grab this. So we take something like Gergrant Fur and we thin it into a glaze. This is a lot of work, and you don't have to do this, but this is what, if you want to take this to the next level, this is what I would do. And I guess you are here for this kind of advice. Something like this. No, darker. There you go. There you go. So you can glaze this in this direction, creating a bit more shading. Same there. You can increase the volumetric shading places like that. Oh shit, I forgot to add another layer. Of course I did. Well, what are you going to do? Something like this. So you want to glaze with these browns and create more volume. Let me grab these like super light browns. Yeah, this works better for the more exposed areas. But again, these super large models are just a pain in the ass. That's why I don't paint large models. I would probably use something like an airbrush to do all of this initial shading and then do the rest. There you go. Then you can take a bone color. Um, just do like super bright edge highlights. I'll probably do them maybe around these details as well, just to add a little bit more definition. You want to add them here. You can probably move on to just yellow for these bits. So something like this. It's just so big that you think you have to do some kind of stuff like that. Let me make this bigger. Just some yellow to tone down some of the shading. It was a bit too aggressive in some bits. Oh yeah, much better this color. It's a pain to paint such big models. I try to address them by part, say the arm, then give much tension, but it will give normal size mini. It makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you really have to be like shading every single detail and glazing, and then glazing some more, and then glazing even more and even more and more. It's just so painful to do. Uh, that's why I don't want to paint this kind of models. Also, you did you did paint the gem very well. It looks fantastic. And then you added this gloss varnish on top, which I don't approve. I would just leave it matte. Why? Because you already painted these reflections, and thus when you put in some gloss varnish, you are adding a third reflection that moves while the others don't. So I don't think it just makes sense. You really have to choose between one or the others. And if you already went through the effort of painting this gem that well, I would just matte varnish this and get rid of of this, essentially. This shine. It just looks so much better. Go away. Much better. So much better. It just looks better to me. Maybe it's just me. I think you could probably do some volumetric highlights on the blue as well. But again, I I know how painful this is, so you don't have to. But you can probably accompany this with some volumetric blue gradients. For example, you can choose to do one here from the dark blue into the mid blue. Like this. You see how that makes sense? It just makes everything look more 3D. Yeah, I would just mix Cantor with Temper Guard, and you can go up to pure Temper Guard and just do like, oops, white. Colors will look different here, but something like this. Just so you have a volumetric highlight on every single detail. But I mean, I don't tell you, good luck with all of this work. It's just a lot of work. But you just have to choose if you just want volumetric shading and highlighting, or just leave it like very heavy metal theme. Not ready for airbrush. Yes, I know. Airbrushing tiny details is difficult. But yeah, that's what you have to do. So you went to this kind of color. I don't know what it is. It looks like, and then you can probably go to a darker brown, something like this, and just, So for example, here we apply it underneath there a little bit, and here we apply it around all of these shadows areas. As I was talking with Giuseppe before, just think about, volumes and stuff like that, and how light reaches. But do you really want to do that? It looks really good, Stefan. But you asked for it. What about freehanding some Eldari symbols to make it more interesting? Yes, that will help for sure. I would do white symbols on the blue, and black symbols on the yellow, obviously. But yeah, that would make it more interesting. But you probably want to highlight this even more. I don't think you went to the full extent of how far you can highlight this. By that I mean you can really go way brighter, and it's still going to look good. Even if you just go like full heavy metal style, you can just do that, but just go brighter. I think you need brighter highlights overall. But yeah, uh, good luck with this project, because this is a massive miniature. And as I said, I'm not sure if I would do this myself, if I'm honest. That's why I don't have armies. especially Eldar. I love Eldar. They're my favorite Warhammer 40k army, but I wouldn't do Eldar models ever. Oh, sorry. So tired. Okay, that's it. We will talk more in our tutorings for sure. Let's move on to the next one. I'm painting my scorpions while watching. Painting full squad to your standard is quite the job. I enjoy it very much. Thank you. As I'm sure it's going to look awesome when you're done. When you're finished with the green, the rest is really not that much. It is Patreon assist critique. Yes, this is Patreon critiques and feedback. You have, if you want to join, you have to be on the tiers, minutams, or above in my Patreon. And once a month, you can submit one miniature for review. If you would like to do that, I would appreciate it. You will also gain access to my private Discord, which is awesome. Twisted Nerves. Hey, hello. Great to catch you live. Thank you for being here. Glad you are here with me. We have here this miniature from Inigo. Inigo painted the lion, really well painted. Very striking miniature by itself, and it's really well painted. It's not a head that I would have chosen. I like bear heads, but it's a good head. It's better than the helmet, so that's something. And it's in general really well painted, very airbrush heavy, and you can see here a very different approach to painting from what we've seen before. You can see it especially on the cape, where it's very heavy on the airbrush initial stages and then did some highlights on top. And it works better in some places than it works on the other. Oh, he's here. I'm here. Let's see what can I improve. So this airbrush initial shading and then shading and highlighting on top works very well on some surfaces. I really love how it works on these vents here, this kind of wingy vents that he has, and this NMM bits here on the backpack that looks really good. Also on this lion pelt skin, but I don't think it works on the cape, at least not in this implementation. So my main issue I have is you went from this very like emerald, dark emerald green to pure white with the airbrush, which looks decent. And oh, that might be because of how it's highlighted, because here's some white reflections from shiny paint. So what I'm going to say maybe it's not the case, but what I can see is you went to this white and then you used a darker green to add some highlights, which I don't think works. And now I'm not sure if these white streaks here are painted on or are a reflection. I can't really tell. But either way, these scratchy lines just don't go well with such a smooth surface. Also, you went for a yellowy highlight, and you have like a very blue base coat underneath, and it looks out of place a little bit. It just looks like mismatched colors. For example, here you can see you have this lighter color here, and then you move into a darker color for the what should be like the most intense part of the highlight. It's a little bit confusing on the cape. It works very well everywhere else. The sword is beautiful, the armor is beautiful, the NMM looks really good. As I said, these little guys, we will talk about them, but they look good in general. But I don't think you nailed the cape. If you allow me to see, yeah, the cloak was not sure about, yeah. So what I would do is just, you see, you move from these bluish colors into yellowy colors, and it just doesn't work. because this looks darker than some of these areas. So something you can do is just apply a filter over everything that is this yellowy color. I'm thinking of ways of fixing it now rather than, you know, trying to do something a bit more drastic. So let me, so if we make this like very not opaque, and if we filter this, all of this with this chartreuse yellowy green color, is everything suddenly going to look much better. It's hard to do cloth. Yes, it is hard to do cloth actually. Because you have an airbrush, you can do this with the airbrush. What I'm doing now, just grab something like if you have Citadel, I don't know which paints you use. You have Citadel, something like Striking Scorpion's Green, that will work. And if you use Vallejo, you can pick something like, let me look, maybe maybe like a, I'm not an expert on Vallejo, but like a nice yellowy green ink. You can just spray that transparent ink over the whole cape like this, and suddenly, just by unifying all the colors together, it looks so much better. Like so much better. You can see the difference here. I forgot to do the layer. Let's see, you see it there? Yeah, for sure. I will glaze it with the airbrush. I have the full express. So you have the express range. I would use yeah, I would probably use orc skin if you're using the express range. I think orc skin is going to do this job very well. So just spray orc skin thin down over the whole surface, and you will unify all of the colors into a more cohesive look. Look at how much that improved. It doesn't look weird now. You see the difference? It just doesn't look disjointed. Like that. Very carefully. And it will unify the green into a more cohesive tone. Then one thing you can do when you're doing cloths with the airbrush, and then you want to refine it with the brush, is work on the shadows, because airbrushes are really good to do highlights but are not really good to preserve the shadows. So you're going to eat away on the shadows quite a lot when you're doing that. Let me grab a shadow color, so something like this. And what you can do is just take that, and if you have the full express range, including the new ones, you can use something like monastic green to do this. You will just apply this onto and glaze this onto the shadows. So you can, and I want this to be a little bit more opaque. Like this. You can just go in and catch all of these shadows. More or less. And try to glaze in some more shadows so it looks a little bit you know, more contrasty. Like that. And again, it really makes a difference when you see all of the changes implemented, how much of a difference it makes. So same thing would go for these chaps here, because you did like an airbrush initial stage, and then you did a little bit of highlights with your airbrush. But I think you should do also some more shading. Let me grab a pure tone of this. Just grabbing something like Evil Red from Game Color. Just glaze some shadows that go into the recesses with this. Make sure you have all of the recesses picked up. And it's going to help define these guys so much more if you do all of this shading. You can see it here where it looks really flat. So if you add some more shading, it's going to look awesome. When you do this kind of hybrid approach, I feel like just after doing the airbrush, the first thing you should do is work on the shadows, is redefine all of the shadows, and then you can work on the highlights. For example, here we can take this pink, we can make a brighter pink like this, a little bit desaturated, and we can work on that on top. I want more opacity with this, otherwise I'm just going to die here trying to do these highlights like this, and you can work on that, and you can increase your highlight levels and all of that nice good stuff. But first I think you should work on the shadows, especially when doing this hybrid approach. Just like that. Apart from that, as I said, the armor looks really good. The NMM looks really good. You can probably add some more highlights in some places of this NMM. For example, here, you could benefit from a highlight in this corner, like that. The small details, not really important. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I also really like the inside cape. I think this burgundy color came out really well. Yeah, it makes a lot of difference in the cloak. I think the only detail here that I would change is this cloak, because the rest looks really good. I think the cloak was just grabbing too much of a negative attention. It just didn't look unified. It looked weird. Just doing that glaze with or skin, or with a chartreuse, like something like. I would probably use like transparent ink, but I have a lot of inks. Just wait a second. Yeah, something like this. A scale color intense lime. This would do. This would do just fine. But orc skin will also work. Citadel, Scorpion striking green, as I said, will also work. You know, all of those things. They all will work in a different way, but they all will work. But apart from that, really good job. I think it's a fantastic piece. I think you can also, if this is your basing for your army, then don't change it. But I think it's a little bit flat. You can add some greenery, some tufts, and just a couple of tufts. It's going to help quite a lot. But if this is the basing for your army, it is fine. What are the best transparent inks? Good question. Liquitex. You just can't go wrong with Liquitex. They are awesome. Artist grade. These have magentas. I have a couple of browns. They have a really nice range, and the quality is fantastic. And they're usually in all of the art shops available, so that's also good. Let's move into the next one, or we will be here till I have to eat my dinner. Let's move into Benjamin. Okay, so Benjamin has painted the bust, and we see here a classic example of very early on in the Liquidex are cheap too. How Patreon going? Patreon is going well. Thank you very much. I'm really happy. I'm thinking about setting a goal in Patreon. It's the first time I've done that because a lot of people have asked me to do videos translated to Spanish, which I totally get. I do understand there is not much content in Spanish, and I'm not helping by making videos in English. Um, so I might set up a goal that if I reach it to that level, I will probably start translating and making videos in both languages. I think that would be a cool goal set and maybe will attract a bit more Spanish presence in my Patreon, which would be appreciated. So we see, as we were saying, a classic example of a first bust or a first delving into the bust world, and this is just everything's very flat. So my first, because this is a very deep a rabbit hole that you can go in, you really have to be careful with the advice you give people that are new. So my main advice would be to try and do just a little bit more. So, for example, you have a really flat skin. The good thing is we do have all of the tones that we want here. So just bringing everything up a little bit more would really help. So if we take this color here and we add a little bit of white into it, you can't just do white. You don't have to overcomplicate yourself. And you start plotting highlights, simple ones. Again, you don't need to do much. Like that. So you just plot some highlights there, and then we take this color, and again, you add a little bit of white, and you plot some highlights there. And you take this color again, you add a little bit of white, and you plot some highlights, and you keep going with all of those tones, and you keep adding more and more highlights, you will get to a good result. If you are having issues with highlighting, I highly recommend you try a couple of videos about glazing, and if glazing doesn't click for you, I would suggest you go for something like a stippling, which is a really useful tool to have. So this is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's starting to look better. Another detail that really stands out is the eyes. You really want more definition, and also it looks like you use pure white to paint the eyes themselves. You never use white. You want something like a gray, a kind of grayish color. I like to go for something like deck tan, which is in this kind of direction, so a little bit yellower, something like this. This would be a good deck tan equivalent. And you paint the eyes with this grayish color instead of the white. You never use white for the white of the eyes, the white of the eyes. That is a big no-no. Then you can take a dark, like a really dark brown. Something like this. And you can paint like, especially here, you can, on the upper eyelid, you can paint that line there. And I do like to do a little bit on the lower eyelid as well. Just a little bit less intense overall. Then I do like to take a red color, like a dark red color, and I like to drop a little bit of this dark red onto the side of the eyes, just like that. And then another big thing that you probably want to look is like this, the eyes themselves just don't look really well. I think this is supposed to be a Japanese officer of some kind on World War II, Japanese pilot. So you probably want the eyes to be dark, and you have to make the pupils bigger, much bigger, and it shouldn't be a circle, because if you look someone in the eyes, you don't see the pupils like entirely. You don't see the whole round pupil. You only see them when you are scared, something like that. You see how much of a difference that made? Much improved. Just the eyes, it just makes them, look at that. It just makes a massive improvement just by doing the eyes well. And then you can take pure white. Now you can take pure white and you, okay, let me go with pure white, and you paint the reflection with pure white. Now you paint the reflection like that. You see that? That is what I'm not going to ask you to go from this to a like Mark Clans bust, because that's not going to make you any favor whatsoever. It's not going to help you out. I want you to try and do this, which I know it looks like it's a lot, but it really isn't. I'm just asking you to go and pick these colors that you use, add a little bit of white, and do some highlights on top of what you've done. That's it. As we talked about in Giuseppe's review, what you have to think, it's about light coming from the top and hitting your face. So, for example, let me do another layer. Grab a red color. In this section, the main highlight is going to be here, then here, and then here, etc., etc. The nose is going to be main highlight there, then less, then less. Maybe another highlight there on the tip. It looks really good. And this volume is a different volume, so I want you to do this, and this, and this. We have a different volume here, etc., etc. We don't need much. We really don't need much. Let me erase all of this. I'm going to draw you hopefully a nicer diagram, because you are only going to do one highlight for this initial review. So, oops. Oh, okay, yeah. So highlight should be there. This should be there, there, there. Look at how I am following all of the volumes that are on this face. See it? Like there. There should be another one there. There should be another one there. Should be another one there. There should be another one there. There, there, etc., etc., etc. And don't think about this like in a GW way. You need to think about in a zenithal way. Let me turn this layer off, move to the other one, and keep on going. Once you have this, another good example would be the lips. Let me grab the lips. You will have like one color for the lips. I will go like super hard, and just because the lips are reflective, and I would paint a couple of highlights on the lips, like there, and not very much. You don't need much, just like that. That's enough. So I'm going to do it on the face because it's one of the most recognizable places to do this kind of work. But this should be done in every single surface, okay? So yes, everything that faces the sky, view model from the top, you see the upper surface. Exactly, that's it. And once you have this, which is like an initial volumetric approach to the face, you have some highlights, you have the eyes better defined, you have everything looks nicer. Then you can start thinking about more contrast in the form of shadows. For that, what I like to do is like make my own like general shadow for the skin, and it's usually a combination of a dark deep red with maybe I do a little bit of blue and maybe a little bit of black to be saturated, something like that, or maybe mix a tone that looks like sort of this kind of color, but more red shaded. I do like my shading on my face to be warm, but you can do cold. That is complicated, but we're not going to overcomplicate ourselves. So once you have this, you can start adding more shading. And where do you add your shading? You add your shading on the opposite side of where you put your highlights, but on a volume to volume basis. Let me grab this highlight. I forgot to highlight this. Like that. There you go. So on a volume to volume basis, you go in. Oh, I forgot. No. Well, doesn't matter. I forgot that. Let me grab this dark brown. And you start adding the same shading, but on a volume to volume basis. Like this. You start adding shadows. The upper lips should be quite dark, because no light is going to be hitting them, or almost no light. We want nice deep shadows there and there. We can work shadows there. But again, this is a second stage, and you don't really need to do anything like this. But I'm going to try and guide you, so to speak. Oops, what did I do? No. No. Yeah, I just realized my mistake. Because I am an idiot. There you go. Like that. Let me grab my shadow color again. So here on this side of the eye socket, underneath the lower eyelids, and you can see how we are building a lot of dramatic shadows and making everything look more realistic. Ironically, look at the difference we created. Look at that. Just by adding one highlight and one shadow to what you had already there. It's a massive improvement. Just one highlight and one shadow. Just one. I haven't done any more. One highlight and one shadow. And it's a massive improvement. So this is what I want you to take away from this review, is that you need to start thinking about adding contrast into your miniatures and doing it in a clever way. Remember, look at where my highlights are. All in the places where the volumes, where the lights are going to hit the volumes straight from the top. That's all you have to do. I know it's not easy. I know it. Let me grab the red and do that again for you. Do it here in some more surfaces. There. And of course, eyelids, etc. So that. And I just realized what I just did. Okay, let me just. So there. Ever do that? I am the worst. Like that. And the eyes. Like this. So yeah, this is essentially what you want to do. So let's just recapitulate on all of this. So you want to first of all establish an initial very simple highlight. Once you have your initial simple highlight done, work on one simple shadow and rework the eyes. The eyes were the worst offenders. The eyes are the most important part of a bust. Badly painted eyes will make a bust look awful. Nicely painted eyes will make a bust look so much better. And that's all I'm going to ask you to do. That's basically it. Just go on all of the surfaces and add one highlight and one shadow. That's all. Simple. Thank you for your submission. I know this is a lot. That's why I try to keep it simple for you. And as I always do, I try to adapt to all of my students' levels, because that's what you have to do. You can't really do. Let me do the tip of the nose. It should be highlighted. You need to approach each review in a different way. Yeah. So I hope that was useful. Let's move on to the next one. This is Tim. And Tim has painted, as always, something very striking. In this case is the Vayar's Revenge with a glowy sword, because of course he's done that. And it's really good. It's really good. It's just fantastic because, yeah, he's a very good painter. What's your opinion on different companies' contrast paints? I'm hearing Vallejo is far superior to Workshop, getting back after almost 30 years, still getting used to new matte. So, that's a complex question to answer. First of all, for several reasons. First of all, because I really dislike certain companies. It has nothing to do with their paint. I just dislike the companies as a whole. And I do have a previous professional involvement with some others. So just know that I might be biased here. For me right now, the best two ranges are, in no particular order, Citadel Contrast Paints and Vallejo Express. Because they do two different things, very different things, in very different ways. So I think both are at least worth having, depending on what you want to do. Citadel is, as a whole, more intense in terms of saturation and color. It's also more vibrant, but it's a little bit more difficult to control. Express, and it dries satin, which is something that you might want. But Express dries ultra flat, like ultra flat. If you don't like that ultra matte look, you're not going to like Express colors. I want to be very clear about that. You're not going to like them if you don't like that ultra flat look. So, but they are also easier to control. They flow nicer, but the colors tend to dry a little bit less intense because, again, ultra matte, the colors, you don't get that shine from the satin, that intensity that it gives the pigment. So you have to have that in mind. It's very important. So those two are my favorite. I have not used Speed Paints 2.0 because after my first review of the first version, they're not going to send me another one, and I'm not going to spend my money on Army Painter if I can avoid it. Not because I think they are bad paints, but because I have no use for them, and I don't think just buying for the sake of buying makes any sense. I bought the Fanatics, which I'm going to keep because I really want them. I really wanted to try them. I was really curious about how they would work because it's something new, and Army Painter has not had a good track record with normal acrylic paints, so I wanted to see what like the best product they could make felt like, and I was really impressed. Apart from the color selection that I don't like, I think the paint itself is really good. And the other ones are Scale 75, which I think they are shit, and not because I do like the brand. I just think the paint itself is not good. They are like the instant paints or something like that. I don't think they are good. And then there is a Green Stuff World, which I despise the company itself, and I prefer not to even give them an inch of publicity in my channel if I can avoid it. So I'm not going to even comment about anything that they make ever. So that's my review on all of the contrast equivalent paints. I might like them more than Citadel. That satin finish often isn't what I'm looking for. So sometimes it is. Yeah, if you want a satin finish, go with contrast. If you want a matte finish, go with express. That is my advice. They are both equally good. Have you ever used the Mia paints? Yes, I have. I have some of them up there. You can't see them. I'm not going to get up and to show them to you. But I do use Tamiya paints just with my airbrush, and I don't use their thinner for my airbrush. I use this thing. The Mr. Color Leveling Thinner, which smells like death. This is death in a bottle. This is really awful. But it's the best thinner for Tamiya paints. But yeah, yeah. Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. This is lacquer thinner. Okay, I want to be very clear. This is lacquer thinner. Extremely toxic. So please, if you use this, please wear a mask, like a good quality one. Have good ventilation, and yeah, be very careful. This is death in a bottle, especially when you spray it on the air. I use it because it's the best thinner for them, but I would highly recommend you don't. That's what I'm going to say. Thank you, Juan. Although I think Workshop will have it uses, greatly dislike the thickness and gloss. Look forward to trying Express. Yeah, I think you're going to like them. They level out very well. We are very proud. So just so you know, I was involved in designing them. So I took part in the testing. It was one of several testers. I gave them feedback on those paints, and I was involved in that creation, and I got paid for that job. So you have to know that. But yeah, I think they are fantastic, obviously, because I helped design them. And on the expansion, I chose most of the colors, not all of them, but I chose a big chunk of the colors. That's why you have more earthy tones, bones, and more useful colors other than just bright colors that Angel likes. You know, Giraldez is just Giraldez. So why don't we move into the review with of this lovely, lovely model by Tim. So things that Tim has done well is we have a lot of a nice differential highlights and things that are metal and things that are not metal, but I think I would increase them even more. Say, Twisted Nerve says, I appreciate that you let us know that. Though your experience with them is convinced me I should try them. I think you should. They are really good, but you should know that I took part on the development. So I'm not a Vallejo employee. I don't work for them, but I work with them, and I get paid by them when I do demos for them, and I do conventions with them and all of that stuff. So just know that I do have an economic interest in Vallejo. So in a way, but I'm not an employee, and I can say whatever the fuck I want, and you know it doesn't really matter. But just know that. So The thing when you're doing OSL, one of the most important things you have to differentiate between uh, matte and glow and reflective surfaces when you're doing the OSL. And Tim has done this job quite well. We see a difference in shine between this metal, um, this color, for example, this cross guard and stuff like that, and matte surfaces like this cloth and the armor and so on. But I think I would want a little bit more of that. So I'm going to take this super bright red and I will probably, let me add another layer. Yeah. Yeah, this is good. I want to make it smaller. I would probably increase this even further up to the same level of shine as the glowing runes themselves. Also, details like this should be brighter because this is supposed to be metal. So maybe catch some of the uh, edges there. Just like that. You did really well here on these surfaces, but I think I would even increase this a little bit more, and also here on the backside, and also here on the spike. I don't think this is finished. Tim has a tendency of submitting a lot of unfinished paintings for review, which is something that I approve of. So I have no issues with that. I will also probably darken down the face quite a lot, just because I think it makes sense. And leave the shine as our main source of light to define that face. So I would increase that dramatically. Grab some of that maybe. Something like that. Again, just to make it even more dramatic. Also because the light is coming from the sword, it's going to be hitting, that center area of the face. I know this probably won't get any light, but I think I would add it there just because it helps the face feel more defined. It's not that you are almost at 100k. Yeah, very exciting. Only about 200 people left. It's going to be awesome. Um, yeah, that makes sense to me. We can let me grab this shadow color and maybe increase here on the eyelids a little bit more, and here this side of the nose. I think this nose should be darkened down, but it's hard to tell. Something like that. Yeah, I think that looks better to me. Both are good. I do like my version better, but it's just different interpretations of the same thing. Apart from that, I think I would like some of these red highlights as edge highlights. I know Tim is a little bit allergic to edge highlights. That's why I always tell him to do it, edge highlights. That hilt is gorgeous. Yeah, it's really well painted. I would probably do some edge highlights, but just on the armor, because I do want to. I feel like the cloth looks good. I think just adding a little bit of edge highlight on the armor is going to help the armor read differently and have a different feel from the rest of the model. because the sword is also glowing from the back, I think we should add like there a little bit. It's like that. Just like that. Just a little bit more. I hope you can see the difference. Just a little bit more definition in general on the armor. I love how the edge of the blade seems like it's cooler compared to the whole runes. Yeah, that is the way to do it. That's how you get. And I also love how he did like this super black middle part and this fuller, how you want to call it, and like the edge is hotter as it goes into, but then it's black. I really like how this is painted. This is a metal claw, and as a metal claw, it should have metal-like highlights because metal will reflect light very intensely, like that. So that helps read that as metal and not as, something that is not metallic. And same goes probably for this shoulder pads on the orc, like that. And you can for sure go darker here on the non-reflective bits. To emphasize even more that they are made of metal and not made of or not painted or anything. But yeah, apart from that, I have nothing else to say. I hope that was useful for you. Uh, critiquing team is always a challenge. Okay, we'll do an edge highlight there for sure. For sure. There. Yeah, really, really, really nice job. Thank you for your submission. That was awesome. Let's move on to the 8th one. How much time have we've been here? Quite a lot, I think. Let me see if I can see that. Oh yeah, almost 2 hours now. That's a long one. We have a Christian, and Christian has this Blood Bowl elf thingy. Things I really like. I think the leather on this handbag is fantastic. This is a full-on conversion. He does crazy custom minis, like heavily converted. This is a good example of that. This is sculpted on top of a normal elf. Things I really like. I really like this leather bag. I think it's perfect. I really like the gem on the here. I think this is bang on how it should be. And I love the hair. I love the hair. I think the hair is, again, spot on. Really good paint job. This is probably one of my favorite paint jobs of Christian of the whole submission. I think this is really, really good. And you can see him improving. I would like to see a little bit more cleanliness. We see a little lack of definition in some places like this. I would love to see this a little bit more defined. It's a small detail, but it does make a lot of sense. It just makes everything read better in general. I also, again, my only critique is probably going to be in terms of cleanliness and definition. So here the fingers are a little bit messy, which is not helping you at all. And you should keep on with your highlight patterns that you have so they look better, because otherwise they can look distracting. So if we go here, you see this hand is a little bit distracting. So if we take away that, it just looks great. I love the syringe. I love everything. And this is really good. You could probably add some kind of freehand to like a red cross something. No, I know it is a cliche, but you probably could. like here. Let me grab a mid red. Something like that. I do like that, but you might not. You can shade it afterwards. Yeah. It just helps break all of that white up into a more consistent. But again, main concern is just cleanliness, definition of the different details so they read better. For example, here you have this white, thingy there. Just erasing that just makes everything cleaner. Another cool thing you can do, and I try to do this before, and it looks super cool. And this is not something that I can show you how to do on Photoshop. I can simulate it, but I can't really show you how to do it. Is try to do like blood splatters on the white shirt. And the way you do that is you have to take a red paint, whatever red paint you like. Dark red works better because dried blood is dark red. Something like, cone red or cone red, probably cone red mixed with Mephiston red, something like that. And what you do, I'm going to simulate it here, but what you do is you take that dark red, something like this. You dilute it with water into a sort of a wash consistency, and you apply a dot of that wash on your fabric like this, like a, and you want to have it like a kind of bubble. You want it to be like a drop of that, and take care that the drop doesn't go everywhere, but it should keep on itself due to the surface tension. And you let it there for, let's just say, some seconds. You want the paint to start drying on the rim of the bubble, of the drop. And then you take your clean brush and you absorb the rest of the paint. So you put the brush here and it wicks off the excess paint. And what you should have is something that looks like this. That should be the end result. And it looks awesome. And it's so easy to do. So easy to do. So yeah, you can do that. Let me grab a dark red so I don't have both colors and I don't have to go around messing and try to change them. And you do different sizes of this. And different shapes. And again, you just will go in and take like this inside of the drop out, and it looks awesome, especially for a medic. And if you do it with taste, I think it looks fantastic. But I will just say that this is, you are reaching, let's just say, peak of your style, and it looks awesome. This looks really good, Christian. Like I really like this. Just work on the cleanliness. Once you've done this, and I know you work with oils a lot and stuff like that, just go back and clean everything up so you have defined surfaces. But yeah, fantastic job. It was really good. Let's move on to Jonathan. And Jonathan has painted this lovely plague thingy tank thingy. And it's painted with dry brushing. I think it's dry brushing, maybe airbrushing. It has a lot of dry brush in the metallic parts. These areas here, not sure if they are dry brush or like soft, like airbrush or a soft dry brush effect, like kind of artist opus kind of thing. Anyway, looks really good. I really like it. And the thing with this is, what would I do to this that is not already done? It's just a plague tank. There is not much we can do. I think I would probably turn down these kind of copper colors that are oxidated. I think you should start with a darker brown instead of a copper. This is what I would do on those areas. I would start something like a mix of Moonfang brown and Rhinox hide, so like a dark warm brown color. So instead of a metallic color, just go with a dark brown color. Like this. Then you go with the verdigris effect. So whatever colors you use, it's fine. I know which colors you are using, but whatever colors you use, it is fine. So you can go with this, and you apply like different shades of green. You should also put this verdigris effect on all of the surfaces, including the upward facing ones, like here right close to the chassis. And you go with a lighter one, you know, a little spotty kind of effect. It's really difficult to do. So difficult to do with Photoshop. There are things that are easier and things that are just plain awful to do. And then I would take a let me clean some of this stuff up. There should be like a rivet here. And another one here, if I'm not mistaken. Like that. So that should be brown. You should have this edge like dark brown. It should be something like this. Once you have all of this with your verdigris, let me grab like the super bright shade of verdigris. Whatever, doesn't really matter. Grab this, do that. So you have, when you have that, you go and take this bright copper color and you do a dry brush of this over the surface. That should just catch like the edges and stuff like that. It's going to look better, I think, than just, you know, starting with a copper color, because when copper oxidizes, it loses the metallic shine. It just turns brown. So if you start with a brown color, dark brown, then you do all of the verdigris, and then you do a dry brush with the copper, it's going to look way more realistic. That's what I did on my undead. And it looks really, really good. I would also like to see more brown. Say this kind of brown on the main panels of the tank. So I would like, there is a little bit of brown, but I want more. It just makes it look way more interesting. Like there. There. Just more brown on the recesses. So there. There. Stuff like that. To me, it just makes it look more interesting and more catching to the eye. And also, I would like to see these OSL effects on the vents here. Just like that. It's a small detail, but it adds so much. I do this to my Imperial Guard tanks, where I paint the tanks very roughly, but I pay a lot of attention to the OSL details, like lasers and lights and stuff like that. Just makes such a massive difference. Yeah, that looks awesome. I think I would love also to add a little bit of a different look to these blisters here. They are green now. I think you could shift into a yellow. Paint them yellow. They are full of pus. That. And if you do this kind of highlighting where you can do this like gem kind of effect, looks so good. And you can add, what is the name of that paint? Like the blood for the blood god, but for like bile. A Nurgle rod. So you can add that Nurgle rod color. Just something like this, I think. To the insides here, and make it like dripping from these holes. And some of them you don't have to do in all of them, but some of them you add, random pools of Nurgle rod. To, like here, such an easy effect to make. Just add, for example, you do it here, just here on the bottom, like it's dripping, like that. Just adds so much. Adds quite a lot, because the rest it just looks really good. It's Nurgle tanks are basic, and you just want them to be filthy. So this would you add OSL inside the main barrel? The main issue with this kind of thing is that it's too deep, so you can't really make a convincing effect. The only way to making a convincing OSL effect is to fill this barrel with putty until you have like a shallow concave surface, like right near the top, because you can paint the OSL. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. But yes, that's what I would change. So simple changes, so more brown shading on the tank. I would do the copper details with brown paint, then do the verdigris effect, then do a dry brush on top of those. Oh, MP Monoplastic. Hello, British Portugal. Hello. Thank you for coming. Obrigado. I know that word. That's the only thing I know. Yeah, and that's what simple things, but it's a simple paint job for a simple tank, and you shouldn't invest like too much time on a Nurgle tank. It's just a tank. Let's move on to Peter, and he has this dark elf, which looks really good, really original color scheme. I think it benefits, because otherwise what tends to happen with dark elves armies is that they end up all looking like a solid, like a steel miniature with steel. It's just steel armor with steel chainmail and some red details or purple details. That's all that they are. And I really like this teal armor. I think it looks fantastic. I do like the effort on the TMM sword. I think you should go a little bit brighter. If you want the shiny part to be here, it should be a bit brighter, like this. And if you don't want to do like this, oh, I don't like this. It's too much better. All right. And if you don't want to do a second reflection here because the sword is pointing downwards, don't do it. But if you want to, I think it will look awesome. Let me do it for you. Like that. Take it lighter gray. Just don't reach like the top of the sword. You don't need to do that. Right here is the sweet spot for me. Like that. Yeah, that looks good. Again, I would you'd still need to work on some definition on your metallics. Just take a really dark brown, almost black, and just run very thin line on these surfaces, these lines here. So they are more defined. Same for the fingers. You see, have shiny details on the inside. You just take some black paint that is not shiny and just paint the inside of the fingers here, the recesses of the fingers. Very well. Excellent effects on that tank. Yes, it's really cool. It's really cool. Also, I think you can do a little bit more highlight on this armor. Like this. You can probably pick up the edges as thin as possible and go a little bit brighter. Especially when it's pointing upwards. When it's pointing downwards, I don't really care that much. Also pick the ridge here in the middle. Really useful for Dark Elder. Like that, you see how much of a difference that makes? Yeah. Yeah. So we have the sword and we have the banner here. The banner looks good. The freehand is okay. It looks very dark elder, dark elf. So that is a good thing. The only thing I would add is just need some kind of shading. You have to pick like a really dark green and just it needs shading. A bare minimum towards the bottom. Just a nice gradient towards the bottom. But you can also do like this and like this. Like bands of shading. And you can get a darker color even. And concentrate towards the bottom, like this. Something like that. I know that you want like bright green, but you do need some sort of highlighting, some sort of shading. Let me grab this color. Yeah, that's a bit more balanced. I'm erasing your freehand, but you know what I'm talking about. And you can do the same with some more highlights. Like this. Yeah, that's what you should do, essentially. The rest looks good. It is a good paint job, and I love the color scheme. It's a really good color scheme. I would do something more with the bases. They just look too barren for me. You know, a tufts, something different. They can be just like dry tufts, like ochre looking tufts, stuff like that. That is okay, but it looks a bit too empty. But yeah, all in all, a little bit more work in your metallics. A little bit more edge highlighting on the armor, and this banner looks some definition in terms of volumes. But good job. Thank you for your submission. Let's move on to the last one. This is Abe. And Abe has submitted this striking looking Chaos Lord mounted on this, dragon or something. I have no idea about AOS, sorry. It's not a dreadnought. It was called dreadnought, I think. They were like, I don't know what this is, but it looks really cool. I love the fire effect on the horns. I love how you painted the scales in general. I think it looks like fiery and really cool. Oh, it's last. Yes, you are last because you submitted when you didn't submit last, but you did submit some photos that I, for some reason, I just couldn't download. I don't know what that happens. It's the second time that happened to me. I painted it for you. Karkadrak. Karkadrak. Thank you very much. It's a lovely miniature. It looks really good. I love the fire effect on the armor. Love the contrast against the winter base. Yes, that is a good choice. Also, a good choice is doing like the axe and the sword in this kind of glacier, and it's all like fluor paints because look how awesome it looks under fluorescent light. That's so cool. So things that I would like to see here. I feel like the black skin on the monster is a little bit too flat. I feel like some parts of the armor should be a bit more defined. Let me grab this dark color. So, for example, here we are lacking definition. I would love just a little bit more definition. Just a little bit more around certain plates of the armor. Let me, so you see there. Let me add that. Let me do that. Like that. And I think you did quite a lot of volumetric highlights. For example, here, this looks really good. But in some other areas, it's a little bit inconsistent. And I would love to see more of this dark gradients with this lovely blackish purple a bit more present. Like that, for example. You see the difference? We're just creating a little bit more interest onto the armor of the beast. Again, you have some nice gradients going on in several places, but I would love to have that. Also, you kind of really want, this is white. Yeah, this is white enough. I would try to just paint this inside of these glowing runes brighter altogether. It's too small to try and do like a double kind of thing. It's a bit too difficult. So I think I would just leave them white. I think it reads better. Same for here. Like that. That does look better. Thank you. How can I keep the floor glow with that white line? The flower glow. You mean like this yellowy glow around the? I think just it just looks good like this. You're just making it more glowy. Oh, the floor glow. Oh, you don't have to. Are these live stream tutorials Patreon only? Yes, you have to be a patron on the tier of arms or above. So you can once you do this, you can do like a glaze with some fluor paints, but you do want the white in there because the fluor paints will pull in the recesses. The white is going to help the glow be glowier. So you just glaze. You can, for example, do all of that you've done glazing with the fluor paints, and then add this white at the very end, and it's going to look awesome. You don't need to add fluor on top of that. But you mean like it's not going to look fluor once you do the black light thing? Oh, that is a problem. Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Um, hmm. I think there is a white fluor paint. Let me just look about that. That is a good question. That is a good question. Oh yeah, yeah. If you look for fluor white paint, you will find some of a brand I prefer not to name. But if you Google white fluor paint, you will find it. So that's it. but yeah, if you've been watching the live stream, you already know which brand it is, but just don't want to name them. Okay, so and that will preserve the fluor effect. And we look for brand that shall not be named white fluor. uh, yeah, it's really well painted. So another thing that I'm not sure I like, I do understand why you did it, but I'm not sure I like it, is these red runes on this like icy looking sword. I get it. I'm not sure if I'm for it. You have like this. Yeah, I'm not sure I like that. It just kind of breaks the sword color. It looks awesome when it's in fluor mode, so it looks awesome here. It looks amazing there. Oh, this was supposed to be a steel. It looks, yeah, and maybe a little bit too blue. Maybe a little bit too blue. Maybe you can. That is a good fit. That helps me a lot. Thank you. Maybe just take like a dark. Maybe just reduce the amount of blue in the sword. Okay, I see what your problem is. Okay, so I think I would probably simplify the effect. If you want this to look like a steel, I will probably do something like this. So it looks more like steel. Let me grab white. And we take this black looking color like this. And then here we can leave most of this dark, and we can concentrate on these areas which are opposed to the ones that we've done on the other side. Then pure white. Yes. And then what I would do is I would personally leave all of this area black, except for the runes. A hard time seeing grays when still is challenge, but good advice. Put the blue into see transitions. Oh, if you have issues with that, that is a different. I'm not going to go into that because that is a big problem. So blue helps, but you can use the same blues, but try to change the pattern of the reflection. So I would just leave this whole middle section black. I'm going to paint over the runes now, but I will leave all of this black like this. Now it looks more like steel. And now you can get this super bright red fluor paint and just paint these runes with it. Super bright, right? Like that. So you just paint the runes. You just drop this into the runes themselves, however they are, something like this. And whatever this is here, I don't know. Something like this, and this is better. So don't even bother with edge highlights or anything. Just do the runes, and it's going to be good enough. And don't do any highlighting on the fuller part of the blade. Leave it black, like deep black, or mix a little bit of blue into the black if you want to keep that tone going. But don't do any highlighting. Don't try to do any reflections there. Just leave it for the runes to shine, and it looks way better. Look at that. It reads so much better as a steel sword than it does the other way around. Yeah, I do like this. Don't change this. I do like this, like super blue axe. I think it looks awesome. But I would change the sword basically. So it just helps quite a lot. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the skin, because it's not an important detail. It's just a background detail. You really don't need to put too much effort, but it looks a little bit too flat compared to the rest of the model. So this is your main highlight. It will go way higher than this, but not everywhere. This is the key. Not everywhere. Just where it needs to be. So I would probably concentrate this around the face. You did paint the eyes very well, so I would just do something like this. Just concentrate this in the good area. So you bring the eye onto the areas that you painted well. In this case, the eye is really well painted, so you want to bring attention to that. Just like that. You don't need to do more, just on the face of the creature. Look at how much of an impact that makes. It just your eyes go there, which is good because it's a face. You want the eyes of the viewers to go there. And you can even go up to pure white with your highlights if you want, but just concentrating them on the good places. As Richard Gray said, just paint the good parts good, and don't bother with the other ones. It's like that. It's so much better. And you don't need to do the scale from the back or the legs or the feet. Forget about that. You want the face of the creature. Faces are where the attention should go. Look how much of a difference it makes. It's so much better. But yeah, really good job. I really like the base. I think you can probably do some on the base here, probably before you did all of this. But you can take some white ink, like acrylic white ink from Liquitex or Daler-Rowney or whatever brands you prefer. you can just glaze a little bit of white onto the eyes in different sections. Just pull some white there onto this eyes section. Come on. You know, a little bit of white glazed onto the eyes, and boom, model finished. Fantastic job, by the way. It's a great paint job. And I'm 100% sure your friend is going to be more than happy. It's really cool. Let me go back. And that's it. We are done. Almost 3 hours, 2.5 hours. It was a lot of reviewing, and I really hope you liked it and appreciate it. And thank you for all of you that showed and was here. I really appreciate, especially the person that donated that generous donation, WG, at the beginning of this stream. That was amazing. Thank you very much for doing that. I really appreciate it. And thank you for everyone that is in my Patreon and that's submitting minutes for review. Patreons is what keep this channel alive. So if you want to help me out, that's how you have to do it. You have to join my Patreon. Even the lowest tier helps me massively, but I have great perks like private classes, feedback in this form, or like constant feedback through a special private section of my Discord with just feedback from me. That's the only places you can get feedback from me. And online classes and all of that goodness. So if you're interested in that, check my Patreon. The link is right there. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for putting up with me for this nice evening/afternoon. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye.